Hi everyone, welcome to Latinas Uprising. This is a space for Latinas to talk about how to get to law school, through law school, and how to establish a successful career as a new attorney. I'm Nubia, and today I'm here to talk to you about confidence and the new attorney. So I often get this question from new attorneys who really feel a lot of self-doubt and want to conquer that and aren't really sure what their steps should be to feel like they're actually doing a good job, or what the kind of metrics should be to determine whether or not they're doing a good job. And I want to talk about that because for me, confidence was really about assessing two different factors. One was external influences and one was internal influences, and how those two things kind of hone and determine how good you feel about the work that you're doing. So let's jump into external factors first, because I think they're complicated but a little bit easier to maneuver and manage. External factors are really about the environment that you're in. Are you in an office, and I'm going to default to law firm even if you're in public sector or government, are you in an office that is supporting you in the way that they're supposed to? Are they giving you mentorship? Are they giving you sponsorship? Are they giving you tools to really learn the tricks of the trade? That's not always the case in general. Our industry often has this need to really do a baptism by fire, and you're thrown into the courtroom, you're thrown into a client meeting, and you're supposed to sink or swim. That's not a great model, but frankly, that's a model many of us experience. And if you're lucky enough to be in a place where there are resources to train you and orient you and really provide you with the type of guidance, that's fantastic, but it's not always the case for everybody. And even if they do offer these opportunities to folks, there's also a lot of implicit bias that comes up into play that impacts how those managing partners interact with women of color. There's studies, I've linked them before in some of the blog posts, that show how men are viewed based on their potential and women are judged based on their work product history. So when you're a managing partner and you're determining who am I going to mentor, it's easy to see why they would select someone whose future is bright and that they can see, versus someone who has a very short window of work history and that's all you're judging them on. And of course, many of them aren't going to come out and say this because it's an implicit bias. Some of them are experiencing this subconsciously, but it is something we need to be aware of when we're in a situation where we're noticing that Mark in the office down the hall is given all these opportunities and experiences and exposures, and we have to hustle twice as hard and aren't giving even half of the resources and support he's being given. When that situation arises, it's easy to come to the conclusion that Mark must be a better attorney than I am, and that's not always the case. So I want you to be savvy about the type of environment you're in. I want you to see who is it that actually advances in the firm that you're at. Do they look like you? Is there a reason why people that look like you are derailed and off-boarded and don't make partner? What's going on? Because it's not always going to be the case that just because you're new and are starting out that you're not doing a good job. So it's going to be important for you to assess the environment that you're in and really see if those external factors are impacting how you feel about the work that you're doing. Because if you're not being provided or given the support that you need, it's not necessarily because you're not doing a good job. There could be all these other influences at play, and it's unfair for you to think it's something you have to fix, because it's impossible to fix a bad environment. But the moment you realize that it's the environment that's impacting how you feel, the easier it is for you to determine whether it's time to move on to a new opportunity. And that's not to say that anytime you don't feel like you did a good job, it's because, the system. Clearly, that's not always going to be the case. We're going to have fumbles. We're going to have to always look for ways to improve, especially when you're new. You don't know anything, so you always are learning, and it's a steep learning curve. That's absolutely going to be the case for everyone, but data is data. The studies are out there. We are treated differently at work, and we have to be cognizant of that, because once we recognize it and recognize that, again, the firm is not responding appropriately, we know that this will not be an environment where we will necessarily blossom in a way that Mark down the hall is able to do. And that's just something we have to keep in mind. Unfortunately, it's the reality of being a woman of color in this industry. Now, beyond external factors, there's also the way that we feel about ourselves in general, our internal influences in our mind, and things that tell us, how we feel about the work that we're providing. It's really important that we also stop and assess that component, because it's not always going to be, the system that's bringing you down. It could also be the way you're treating yourself consciously or subconsciously. Here's where I want to push back on this. I'm generalizing here, but cultural trait that some of us grew up with of being humilde, which in English means humble, because we're often taught to be humilde, to not be presumida, and we take that with us, and we have this idea that in our careers, if we keep our head down and we do good work, we're gonna be recognized for it. We won't even have to say anything, and people are gonna be like, wow, she's great. And that's just not reality. That's not how this industry is. That's not how most careers are in general. And while humildad is a virtue, I also look at the definition, which in English, again, humility, humble. It also includes being deferential. It includes being low. It includes thinking less of yourself. Like, who wants that mindset? Beyond never wanting a lawyer with those traits, just as a person, we shouldn't feel that way about ourselves. And so I really push back against this narrative that we feel that we have to be humilde, that we shouldn't talk about our accomplishments because it's just the nice thing to do. Because who says that? And who does it help? Who does it help if you feel that you're less than someone else? Who does it help if other people don't know that you're doing a really good job? It doesn't help your clients. It doesn't help your firm. It doesn't help you at the end of the day to get your paycheck. So push back against that narrative. If you have it in your head that says, I have to be demure, I have to just let my work speak for itself. No, you have to know backwards and forwards what you're good at and where you need to improve. And when you're new, this is really ripe for cultivating, because you can come into a new practice and really assess, like, I'm coming in and I'm a great public speaker. I'm gonna be a really good litigator, and that's gonna be an asset for this firm. And if that's something that you know, that you're so comfortable going into court, that you're super comfortable in front of a judge and jury, then you should continue to hone that craft as much as you can. Go to trainings, sit at depositions, other attorneys that are more experienced than you, so you can gain their tips and tricks. Do as much as you can so that that skill set that you're bringing, that you feel really comfortable with, continues to grow and grow until eventually, people view you also as an expert in that area. And on the flip side, as a new attorney, you should really think about, what is it that I'm uncomfortable with? What is it that makes me nervous to do? Maybe it is litigating, or maybe you feel you're not a strong writer. What are you gonna do then? Because you can't just let that continue to fester. You need to figure out ways to improve that as well. So maybe you're not as strong of a writer. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna take writing CLEs. You're gonna look at other people who are strong writers. You're gonna read more. You're gonna think of ways to really develop that skill so that it's not as scary to you when it's time to flex that muscle. So when you know your strengths and your weaknesses, it really helps you feel more assured in the work that you're providing. And when you reach that level, you're able then to quiet the voices in your head that's saying you're not good enough or that you shouldn't brag. And as important, it lets you recognize environments that are not providing you with resources to strengthen your weaknesses, or that are not acknowledging your strengths and not letting you grow in that area. And when you are able to recognize that, then you'll know if it's time to go to better opportunities so you can continue to grow as an attorney. All that to say that confidence does not happen overnight. It doesn't happen the day they give you your license. It doesn't happen the first day you go into court. It's an ongoing practice that you have to mold and think about as you grow your career. You have to be cognizant of the environment that you're in. You have to be aware of your strengths and weaknesses, and you have to continue to be your biggest cheerleader in your own mind and then out when you're promoting your work with other people. And all of those can be difficult to do. They can be time consuming. They can be frustrating, but at the end of the day, you are the one that's responsible for growing your career and for cultivating it into something that you enjoy. And knowing, again, your strengths and weaknesses, I think, is the best first step, as well as knowing potential pitfalls that happen as women of color when we enter this industry. I hope this video was useful. Please let me know if you have any questions about confidence in the new attorney, or questions about practicing or law school in general. I'm so happy to answer them. Please follow me on latinasuprising.com. Make sure you follow this channel, like, subscribe, follow, share, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video.